Wife to Stranger. Part 1. The morning she left. Hannah Collins had never meant to disappear. It was early autumn when she packed her suitcase in the dark, folding shirts and jeans and 2 worn sweaters. She worked quietly, listening to her husband's breathing in the next room. Will always slept heavy when he came back late. The house smelled like old coffee and the damp leaves he'd tracked inside the night before. For the past few months, that smell felt as close to intimacy as they came. Hannah paused by the dresser, fingers resting on the framed wedding photo. The 2 of them smiling in the pale September sun. She looked so young in that picture, 24, and certain life would stay as bright as it felt that day. She slipped the photo face down in the drawer. Then she picked up her bag and walked out the door without looking back. Part 2. The goodbye she never said. The week before she left, Hannah tried to tell Will she was unhappy. They were sitting at the kitchen table, eating spaghetti in silence. The clink of her fork was the only sound. She'd thought about it all day, how she would start the conversation, what she'd say. But when she opened her mouth, the words dried up. "I'm tired," she said instead, pushing her plate away. Will didn't look up from his phone. "You should go to bed early." That was all. She went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and realized she'd been living with a stranger for years. Part 3. The drive. She drove west, on Route 2 before dawn, past fields of brittle cornstalks. The sky was a bruised purple. Hannah kept the radio low, mostly for company. Each mile felt like she was peeling away the layers she'd worn since the day she'd become Mrs. William Collins. At a truck stop outside Cedar Falls, she bought a coffee she didn't want and called her sister. "I'm on my way," she said when Lisa picked up. Lisa didn't sound surprised. "Do you want me to meet you halfway?" "No," Hannah said softly. "I think I need to finish this alone." Part 4. The man she loved. When she'd first met Will, he was the most alive person she'd ever known. He worked construction, came home every night with sawdust in his hair and stories about the guys on the crew. He made her laugh until she couldn't breathe. But somewhere along the way, the stories stopped. So did the laughter. He started staying later at work, then at the bar after. When he came home, he was quiet in a way she couldn't reach. She'd ask about his day, and he'd shrug. One night, when she pressed too hard, he'd looked at her with flat eyes and said, "Can we not do this?" So she stopped asking, and slowly she stopped hoping. Part 5. The empty house. Lisa's house was small, white clapboard with blue shutters. The porch smelled like lavender. When Hannah pulled into the drive, Lisa came out to meet her. She looked so much like their mother, sharp chin, kind eyes, that Hannah almost started crying. Instead, she turned off the engine and sat with her hands on the wheel. Lisa opened the car door. "You okay?" "I don't know," Hannah whispered. "That's okay," Lisa said, her voice steady. "You don't have to know." Inside, Hannah set her suitcase by the stairs and stood in the hallway. She'd left everything behind. Her husband, her house, her old life, and she didn't feel relief. She felt like she was floating out of her own skin. Part 6. The call she ignored. 3 days later, Will called. Hannah was sitting at Lisa's kitchen table, trying to eat toast. When she saw his name on the screen, her stomach turned. Lisa watched her quietly. Hannah let the call go to voicemail. Then the second call. Then the third. She turned off the phone and pressed it flat against the table. "You don't have to talk to him yet," Lisa said gently. "I know," Hannah said, but her voice was hollow, because a part of her wanted to answer, even after everything. Part 7. The message. That night, she lay awake in the spare room, staring at the ceiling. At midnight, she turned her phone back on. One voicemail waited. "Hannah, I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're okay. I'm not good at this. But I'm sorry. For everything. Just call me. She listened twice. The voice was familiar, but it felt like it belonged to someone she'd known a long time ago. Part 8. The history between them. In the morning, Lisa made pancakes and coffee. You look like you didn't sleep, she said. I didn't. Lisa sat down across from her. You don't have to decide anything today. Anna looked down at her plate. It's been years since I felt like Will and I were us. Did something happen? Not one thing, Hannah said. Her voice shook. That's the worst part. Nothing happened. He just stopped being there. Lisa reached across the table and covered Hannah's hand with hers. I think I stayed so long because I was afraid, Hannah whispered. Afraid of what? Of admitting he turned into a stranger. Part 9. The visit. 2 days later, Will showed up. Hannah saw his truck pull into the drive. Her body went cold. Lisa stepped between her and the door. Do you want to see him? I don't know, Hannah said. The doorbell rang. Lisa squeezed her shoulder. You don't have to open it. But Hannah knew she would. She walked to the door and opened it. Will stood on the porch, looking older than she remembered. His hair needed a trim. His eyes were red. Hi, he said hoarsely. Hannah didn't say anything. Can I talk to you? He asked. She stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind her. Part 10. The conversation. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Will rubbed a hand over his mouth. I'm not going to ask you to come home. Hannah blinked. You're not? I don't know what to say that make any of this better, he said quietly. I know I've been absent, and I'm sorry. She stared out at the yard. The grass needed cutting. She'd always been the one to remind him about it. I tried so hard to feel like we still had something, she whispered. But every day, I felt more alone. I know, he said, and I let it happen. When she looked back at him, she felt the strangest ache, like seeing someone she used to love who belonged to another life. Are you okay? He asked. I don't know, she said. He nodded, swallowing hard. That's fair. Part 11. The question. They sat on the porch steps, not quite touching. Do you think we can ever go back? He asked finally. Hannah felt a cold wind sweep over her arms. I don't think there is a back, she said softly. He looked down. Then what do we do? She closed her eyes. Maybe we learn to be honest with ourselves, even if it hurts. Part 12. The decision. When Will finally left, she stood in the driveway watching the truck disappear. Lisa came out and put an arm around her shoulders. Are you okay? No, Hannah admitted. But I feel like I can breathe. That's something, Lisa said. Hannah nodded. It was. Part 13. The beginning of something new. The days passed. Slowly, Hannah started to feel present in her own skin again. She got a job at a bookstore downtown. She took long walks in the evenings, breathing in the cold spring air. Will called once more. She didn't answer right away. She waited until she was sure she wanted to hear his voice. Not out of guilt, but because she was ready. When she finally picked up, he sounded tired, but clearer. I'm trying to figure out who I am without you there, he said. I think that's good, she told him. Yeah, he said. I think it is too. Part 14. The letter. In early summer, Hannah sat down with a pen and a clean sheet of paper. Will, I don't hate you. I don't even blame you anymore. I think we both got lost, and I think neither of us knew how to say it out loud. I hope you find the part of yourself you forgot. I'm trying to find mine too. Hannah. She mailed it without rereading it. Part 15. The summer apart. July came in a haze of cicadas and heavy air. Hannah learned to enjoy the small rituals she'd never made time for. Waking early to walk before the heat set in, buying fresh tomatoes at the farmer's market, reading on the porch swing with a glass of iced tea. At first, every good moment carried a guilt she couldn't shake, as if she had no right to feel peace after walking away. But Lisa reminded her, again and again, that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant forgiving herself for leaving when she needed to. Some days were still heavy. She'd wake up missing the way Will used to hold her hand in the car, or the way his laughter filled a room. But she didn't miss the loneliness that had hollowed her out. Part 16. The Unexpected Meeting. One Saturday morning in August, Hannah was driving back from the bookstore when she saw Will's truck in the grocery store parking lot. Her chest tightened. She thought about driving away, pretending she hadn't seen him. But something made her pull in instead. Will was coming out of the store with a brown bag in his arms. He looked thinner, older, but steadier somehow. Their eyes met. He nodded. She nodded back. And that was it. No words, no scene, just two people who used to be everything to each other, acknowledging that they were no longer the same. Part 17. The First Laugh. That evening, Hannah and Lisa sat on the porch, sharing a bottle of cheap white wine. "I saw him today," Hannah said quietly. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," Hannah said, and to her own surprise, she meant it. "I really am." Lisa raised her glass. "To surviving." Hannah clinked hers against it. "To surviving." And then she laughed, really laughed, for the first time in a long time. Part 18. The New Self. September came, marking a year since she'd left. She didn't feel the urge to call Will. She didn't feel the urge to run back to the life she'd outgrown. Instead, she felt something she hadn't known she was missing: curiosity. Who was she now without the role she'd clung to? She signed up for a pottery class at the community center. She started volunteering at the library on weekends. Slowly, the world felt bigger again. Part 19. The letter she received. One crisp morning, a letter came with no return address, but she knew the handwriting. "Hannah, I'm learning. I'm talking to someone. I'm sorry I couldn't be who you needed. I think maybe we both deserved better than the way we ended. I hope you're finding peace." Will, she read it twice, then set it in the drawer. She didn't cry. She didn't feel anger. She just felt a quiet gratitude that he was trying to. Part 20. The Stranger No Longer. One night, as she sat alone with a book, she realized she no longer thought of herself as someone's wife. She was just Hannah. She was still figuring out what that meant, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She was free. Part 21. The Final Reflection. Months later, when people asked about her marriage, she didn't flinch. "It ended," she'd say simply, "but it taught me a lot." She didn't call Will a villain. She didn't call herself a victim. They had loved each other once, and then they'd become strangers. It was as sad and as simple as that. Part 22. The New Beginning. One October morning, Hannah woke early, made coffee, and watched the sun rise through the kitchen window. She thought about how a year ago she had been too afraid to even imagine a different life. Now she couldn't imagine going back. She poured her coffee, picked up her keys, and stepped out into the bright autumn morning. It felt like the first day of something she didn't have to name.